restorative justice is an alternative to the criminal justice system, and it encompasses a focus on healing the harm that has resulted from criminal activity rather than retribution or punishment. I think to some extent examples of restorative justice type approaches are the towards healing process that's operated throughout Australia by various orders and institutions within the Catholic Church, and of course in Melbourne there's the Melbourne response, which was set up by the Archdiocese. Now they have a number of functions, and one of the functions is an assessment of compensation as well, and also an investigation of the matter. Restorative justice processes basically work where there's an acceptance that it's happened, and therefore there's a focus then on, well, what do we do about it? What's the fair thing to do about it? People who have been the subject of some sexual abuse may well not want to have the matter dealt with by the criminal justice system, because the process to them would be too difficult to deal with, and in fact being involved in the process could exacerbate the trauma that they've already suffered. You may have with old cases situations where the alleged offender is deceased, but some form of restorative justice process could still be very helpful to a victim, which involved, say, an institution of which the deceased person was a member, whereby as part of the process there's an acknowledgement as to what occurred, acceptance of that, and an attempt to reconcile and reach an agreed position as to what should flow from it. I think the value is in having alternatives or options so that people who have been the subject, say, of sexual abuse have a number of alternative courses available to them, which they consider depending upon what purpose they have in mind, what they seek to achieve. They may say, look, this person should be held to account in a criminal court and appropriately punished. That's perfectly appropriate position to take, and the criminal justice system can deal with that. You may have someone else who says, well, I don't want to go down that track, but I believe I'm entitled to fair compensation for the harm that I've suffered. So you could go into a process which endeavoured to assess what is fair compensation. Or you might have someone else who says, well, compensation's not my prime motive, perhaps I should get some compensation, but my prime motive is to get it acknowledged that this happened, to have it acknowledged what the effect has been on me, for me to be satisfied it's not going to happen again to anyone else, that there's an appropriate, say, some compensation, but also an apology and the availability of ongoing pastoral assistance and counselling and things like that. So depending on what purpose the person has in mind, you can mould the process around the objective that you're seeking to achieve.